Jesus Christ encountered a destitute churro vendor weeping alongside his two sightless offspring, a meeting that irrevocably transformed their destinies. The scene unfolded in downtown Los Angeles at precisely 10:47 in the evening. Rain had been descending for hours, its icy filaments piercing the city's neon-drenched atmosphere. Beneath the overhang of a shuttered corporate edifice, a figure clad in a sodden hooded sweatshirt was crouched upon the unforgiving concrete. His arms were wrapped protectively around two shivering young boys, their vacant gazes fixed upon an unyielding darkness. Their small hands clutched the fabric of his shirt as though it were their sole anchor in a world adrift. Pedestrians, a kaleidoscope of hurried bankers, boisterous bar patrons, bewildered tourists, and solitary figures pushing laden carts, streamed past. Each was too preoccupied, too chilled, or too apprehensive to acknowledge the tableau before them. Nevertheless, the sight drew a few sidelong glances. The father, identified as Gabriel Gabirez, bore the unmistakable countenance of a man engaged in a protracted, losing struggle. His churro stand stood abandoned at the curb, its interior oil long since chilled, its metal surface weeping with rainwater. 18 hours of strenuous effort had yielded him less than $30. His sons, Noah and Ethan, 8 years of age and blind since birth, had subsisted that day on nothing more than 2 overcooked churros. A security guard stationed across the thoroughfare observed the family with a troubled frown. A rideshare driver decelerated momentarily before proceeding onward. A woman walking her canine companion paused, only to quicken her pace when Gabe abruptly tilted his head skyward and cried out. It was not a typical lament. Rather, it was the raw, unvarnished sound of a soul depleted of strength, hope, and all recourse. "Jesus Christ!" he bellowed into the inky heavens, his voice cracking under the immense burden of 4 years of profound sorrow. "If you truly exist, if you are anywhere, why have you forsaken us? What is it you demand of me?" His words reverberated against the towering glass structures, only to dissipate into the tempest. Noah and Ethan flinched, startled by the sudden eruption of anguish in their father's tone. Their delicate fingers fumbled for his face, caressing the mingled rain and tears streaming down his cheeks. "Father, please do not weep," Noah whispered. "Are we in trouble?" Ethan added, his voice quivering. A delivery person, on a brisk jog, slowed just long enough to cast a glance. He perceived the boys, gaunt and drenched and sightless, pressing themselves against their father. He witnessed Gabe gently rocking them, struggling to suppress a sob he could no longer contain. However, the driver was burdened with deliveries and pressing schedules, and he continued on his way, the poignant moment dissolving back into the anonymity of the urban night. High above them, a colossal billboard blazed with vibrant illumination. It advertised an exclusive private medical facility, depicting a gleeful child beside a smiling physician, accompanied by the inscription, "Every individual merits an opportunity to see." The stark irony hung heavy in the atmosphere. Rainwater swirled around their worn shoes. The distant wail of sirens echoed through the city. A man seeking refuge beneath a nearby tarpaulin peeked out, observing the scene in silent contemplation. A police vehicle cruised past without interruption, and Gabe, utterly spent, buried his face in his son's hair, murmuring words no father should ever have to utter. "I am so profoundly sorry, my boys. I have nothing left to give you. Not sustenance, not security, not even a flicker of hope." A jagged bolt of lightning rent the sky, casting a harsh, stark illumination across the waterlogged pavement. In that very instant, something, or perhaps someone, stirred within the shadowed recesses of the alleyway behind them. The night was poised for a dramatic shift. The storm that ravaged Los Angeles had not originated that evening. For Gabriel Ramirez, its genesis lay 8 years prior, within the confines of a bustling county hospital, where the relentless hum of fluorescent lights and the hurried movements of exhausted nurses filled the air. The pungent aroma of antiseptic mingled with an palpable sense of dread, as Maria, his young wife, was wheeled into the delivery suite, her face ashen, yet graced with a faint smile. She repeatedly assured him of her well-being, that all would be well, and that their sons would be 2 tiny miracles. However, the unfolding events deviated sharply from her hopeful pronouncements. Physicians communicated in clipped, rapid sentences that Gabe found difficult to comprehend. A prenatal infection, unforeseen complications, insufficient oxygenation, and an emergent delivery were cited. He stood outside the operating room doors, his hands trembling, offering prayers in Spanish, in English, and in silent, desperate supplication to the Jesus his childhood faith had taught him never to abandon anyone. At precisely 3:14 in the morning, the double doors swung open, and a nurse entrusted 2 minuscule newborns into his arms. Their eyes were closed, their cries faint, their bodies alarmingly fragile. He kissed each of them. "Noah, Ethan," he whispered, feeling the nascent spark of hope ignite within his breast. Yet that spark was quickly extinguished. A physician drew him aside, his voice low but devastatingly direct. An unforeseen event had occurred months prior. A prenatal infection had irrevocably damaged the optic nerves of both infants. "They will never perceive," the doctor stated with grim finality. "Not light, not forms, nothing at all." Before Gabe could fully absorb this pronouncement, another, far more grievous blow struck. Maria was gone. She had succumbed to a hemorrhage minutes after the birth. There had been an insufficient number of nurses, an inadequate supply of blood bags, and a critical lack of time. The last time they permitted him to hold her, her body still retained a trace of warmth. Her hair carried the delicate scent of lavender. Her hands, those same hands that had adorned their humble apartment and soothed his face during difficult nights, now lay motionless upon the bedsheet. A junior resident murmured, "I offer my deepest apologies." But the words drifted, utterly devoid of meaning, within the sterile confines of the room. No one could elucidate the circumstances under which a woman whose sole aspiration was to become a mother had perished upon an examination table she had never anticipated meeting her end upon. 48 hours later, the hospital discharged him, equipped with 2 blind infants, a sheaf of official documents, and a bill of a magnitude he had never before encountered. Portions of the expense were disclaimed by insurance, payment arrangements accumulated, debt collectors commenced their calls within months, neighbors extended their sympathies for a week, after which life resumed its course. Friends visited once, perhaps twice. Ultimately, it became a solitary battle for Gabe against the world. A single father navigating the thoroughfares of East Los Angeles with a stroller, 2 infants secured to his chest, praying for their continued health, praying for the preservation of his livelihood, praying that his sons would not pose the question that filled him with the greatest dread. "Father, what does the world appear like?" Years elapsed, and his response remained unaltered. They would never know. Not the radiant glow of holiday illuminations, not the nuanced hues of a sunset, not even the familiar visage of the man who cherished them above all else, remaining in his shattered existence. The aspirations Gabe had once brought to America gradually faded, subsumed by mounting hospital debt, menial wage employment, and prolonged nights spent weeping softly to spare his sons the sound. The profound sorrow of that hospital room pursued him relentlessly. And on the frigid, rain-slicked streets of Los Angeles, it finally caught up with him. The American dream did not disintegrate for Gabriel Ramirez in a singular moment. It eroded incrementally, day by day, bill by bill, promise by promise, until the sole remaining objective was sheer survival. Subsequent to Maria's passing, Gabe relocated to a weekly rental motel on the outskirts of East Los Angeles, the kind characterized by buzzing neon signage and paper-thin walls that conveyed every argument, every distant siren, every midnight pounding on a door. Room 112 became their sanctuary. A single stained mattress, a single flickering lamp, and barely enough space for a portable crib. Each morning at precisely 4:30 a.m., long before the sun ascended, Gabe would extricate himself from bed, exercising extreme caution to avoid disturbing Noah and Ethan. The twins slept nestled together, their eyelids partially open but unfocused, their gazes fixed upon an eternal night. He would pack their meager possessions: flour, cooking oil, a dented gas burner, and step out into the cool morning air, where the acrid scent of exhaust fumes mingled with the bitter aroma of stale coffee spilled in the parking lot. He had once harbored ambitions of becoming a construction foreman. He had once held the conviction that he would possess a home, host backyard barbecues on Sundays, and provide his children with access to quality education. However, successive layoffs obliterated those aspirations. The churro cart, a construction he fashioned from a discarded metal frame and scavenged components, became their sole means of sustenance. Each day followed an identical pattern. He would propel the cart from East Los Angeles to the downtown core. He would establish his vending spot near office complexes before the morning commuters arrived. He would fry the initial batch of churros using oil that was already past its prime, but prohibitively expensive to replace. He would offer smiles to passers-by who seldom reciprocated. He would meticulously tally the small bills and coins, praying that the sum would suffice for another night. But the most agonizing aspect was not the labor itself. It was the profound isolation. No child care facility would admit two visually impaired children whose father lacked the means to procure health insurance. There were no surviving family members to whom he could turn. Consequently, Gabe forged his own solution. He secured Noah to his right side and Ethan to his left with robust fabric straps he had meticulously cut from an old bedsheet. The boys dangled against him like miniature backpacks, their heads resting upon his shoulders as he navigated his day. Their rhythmic breathing served as the constant soundtrack to his endeavors, steady and fragile, a perpetual reminder of the immense weight of their dependence upon him. Passers-by did take notice, but only for fleeting moments. A few tourists captured photographs, either in astonishment or bewilderment. Certain office employees would whisper, "Poor fellow," before continuing on their way. Others voiced complaints that the boys affixed to him compromised the hygiene of his stand. A sheriff once admonished him, stating that the manner in which the children were attached was perilous and presented an unfavorable image for the downtown area, as if appearances held greater sway than hunger. And each evening, after hours of laboriously pushing the cart uphill back to the motel, Gabe confronted the same stark calculations. Could he afford fuel for the subsequent day? Would the motel proprietor extend his tenancy if he was unable to meet the payment? Were the boys unwell or merely fatigued? Would the ensuing day bring improvement or further decline? He had assured his sons that America was a land brimming with opportunities, that one day they would experience the warmth of the sun on their faces, not as an imposition, but as a profound blessing. Yet, internally, he grappled with pervasive doubt. For him, the American dream had metamorphosed into an interminable treadmill, propelling him nowhere while the burden of two visually impaired children relentlessly pulled him backward. Nevertheless, each morning he recommenced pushing that cart, not because he retained any belief in the continued existence of the dream, but because the boys depended on him for their survival, one more day at a time. It was ostensibly to be just another protracted day, another arduous progression through the unyielding cycle to which Gabe had become accustomed. However, from the very instant he departed the motel, an unsettling premonition took hold. The sky above Los Angeles was not merely overcast. It was heavy, pregnant with an impending deluge. A peculiar stillness permeated the air, as if the entire metropolis were holding its breath. By 9 o'clock in the morning, the downtown sector was unusually subdued. Office workers hastened indoors, their collars turned up, their umbrellas unfurling like somber wings. No one lingered long enough to observe a man pushing a battered churro cart with two blind boys tethered to his chest. The initial batch of churros sizzled unevenly, the oil spitting with an irritated hiss. Gabe immediately discerned that the gas cylinder was nearly depleted. Its flame flickered weakly, failing to adequately heat the oil. The aroma of partially burnt dough wafted into the air, yet fewer individuals than usual even deigned to turn their heads. At 10:15, he had sold a solitary churro. By midday, merely 3. At 3 p.m., still no sales. And then the rain commenced. Not the gentle, intermittent drizzle typical of California, but a torrential downpour. Rain hammered the pavement, transforming the gutter into a rushing torrent. Wind whipped across the plaza, tearing the flimsy plastic sheeting from Gabe's cart and saturating everything. The batter, the oil, the sugar, the boys, and Gabe himself. The flame extinguished itself with a mournful sputter. Devoid of heat, without shelter, and without patrons, the day was effectively concluded. Yet he found himself unable to depart. Noah pressed his face against Gabe's shoulder. "Father, I am cold," he whispered, his teeth chattering. Ethan's voice trembled. "Are we going home?" "Home?" If only that word retained its former significance. "Not yet, my boys," Gabe murmured. Though he could not articulate the reason, he continued to scan the street, imploring for a single customer, just one, to enable him to purchase fuel for the following day, to procure sustenance, and to secure their lodging at the motel for another night. Across the thoroughfare, a woman attired in a business suit stood awaiting a bus beneath the shelter of a stop. She repeatedly observed the boys with a complex mixture of commiseration and unease. Then the bus arrived, and she departed without making a purchase. A group of adolescents hurried past, their laughter boisterous. One pointed towards the cart. "Dude, churros in this weather. Good luck, man." The jest dissipated into the storm as they vanished into a parking structure. By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Gabe had amassed less than $20. By 7 o'clock, his garments clung to his body, heavy and frigid. The boys were thoroughly soaked, their small arms entwined tightly around him. Automobiles splashed through the accumulated puddles, sending murky water cascading across the sidewalk. A delivery driver momentarily halted, as if contemplating a purchase. However, when Gabe attempted, and failed, to relight the burner, the man merely offered a shrug and proceeded on his way. By 8 o'clock, the streets were sparsely populated. The rain intensified. Thunder rumbled somewhere behind the towering skyscrapers. The air grew markedly colder. "Father, are we dining tonight?" Ethan inquired softly. Gabe swallowed with difficulty. He surveyed his cart, dripping and useless, utterly vanquished. He possessed nothing left to vend, nothing left to impart, nothing left to anticipate. The American dream had not failed him on this particular day. It had simply failed to materialize altogether. And as the night deepened, Gabe remained uncertain which prospect was more daunting: the gnawing hunger, the biting cold, or the terrifying contemplation that today might indeed be the day he finally succumbed. The rain showed no quarter as night enveloped the heart of downtown Los Angeles. By the time Gabe maneuvered his cart into the sheltered entrance of a closed law firm, his arms trembled uncontrollably, his breathing was shallow, and the sodden attire of his sons clung to their diminutive frames like icy armor. The surrounding city continued its ceaseless motion. Vehicles splashed through puddles, buses groaned along the boulevards, and sirens sliced through the encroaching darkness. Yet here, in this dimly lit alcove of the concrete jungle, time seemed to crawl at a torturous pace. He sank heavily against the wall, drawing Noah and Ethan into his embrace. The boys instinctively pressed against him, their sightless eyes wide with apprehension, attuning themselves to the tempest, to their father's ragged breaths, to the world they could only feel, but never truly behold. "Father, my back aches," Noah whispered. "Mine too," Ethan added, his voice frail. Gabe attempted to gently massage their small shoulders with his numb hands. "I know, my dears. I know. Just hold on a little longer." But he was uncertain what exactly they were enduring the ordeal for any longer. A homeless individual across the street peeked out from beneath a makeshift tarp, observing them with quiet empathy. A young couple hurried past, the woman tugging her companion's arm, urging him to refrain from staring. A security guard situated 2 buildings away relayed something into his radio, but made no move to approach. The storm raged with ferocity, but within Gabe, a far more profound darkness churned. He gazed upon his sons, their fragile ribs, their quivering hands, the way they pressed their faces against him seeking solace and warmth, and something within him fractured irrevocably. He attempted to blink away the tears, but they welled up with greater intensity, mingling with the relentless rain upon his cheeks. "Father," Ethan murmured, reaching up to touch his face. "Are you weeping again?" Again? For yes, this was not the first night, and tonight he could no longer suppress his sorrow. He buried his face in Noah's hair and emitted a sound he scarcely recognized. A broken, guttural cry that echoed off the vacant edifices. "I am so sorry," Gabe choked out. "I am profoundly sorry." "Why?" Noah inquired, his brow furrowed in confusion. "Did we do something wrong?" Ethan added. "No. No, my boys. You have done nothing wrong. It is I. It is entirely my fault." The boys clung to him more tightly. They could not comprehend the immense burden crushing their father, yet they felt its weight. They felt his tremors, heard the pain resonating in his voice, and it terrified them more than the storm itself. Gabe stared at the nascent puddles forming at his feet. His reflection shimmered, fractured. His voice descended to a whisper, intended for no ears save his own. Yet the storm carried it into the depths of the night. "You deserve so much more than this," he declared. "More than cold churros, more than transient motel rooms, more than a father who consistently fails you." The words that followed possessed a bitter, venomous quality. Perhaps you would be better off without me." Noah gasped softly. Ethan's fingers tightened around his father's arm. "Do not say that, Father," Noah pleaded. "Please do not," Ethan echoed, his voice breaking. Gabe covered his face with his hands as another sob tore through him. He was not thinking clearly. Hunger, exhaustion, and 4 years of unceasing hardship had cornered him. And in that desolate moment, he embraced the insidious falsehood whispered by despair itself, that his love was insufficient, that his sons required more than he could ever possibly provide. A flash of lightning illuminated their silhouettes with an almost blinding intensity. One broken man, 2 terrified children, and a truth too immense for any of them to bear. Gabe Ramirez had reached the very precipice of his endurance. And in that act of desperate surrender, the night subtly transformed, as though something sacred had begun to stir within the enveloping darkness. The tempest began to abate, yet the wind still sliced through the deserted thoroughfares like an ominous premonition. Gabe remained hunched beneath the awning, his arms encircling Noah and Ethan, whispering apologies he could no longer restrain. The boys clung to him in silent understanding, their small bodies trembling from both the cold and their fear. Across the avenue, a street lamp flickered erratically, struggling to maintain its luminescence. The homeless individual sheltered beneath the tarp had vanished. Vehicles passed with decreasing frequency, their headlights tracing spectral paths across the slick pavement. The world felt profoundly deserted until the distinct sound of footsteps shattered the stillness. Slow, dragging footsteps, originating from the alleyway behind them, accompanied by the absence of footwear. Initially, Gabe surmised it was merely another displaced person seeking refuge. Perhaps someone potentially hazardous, perhaps someone intoxicated. He tensed instinctively, drawing his sons closer. Noah sensed his father's unease and whispered, "Father, what is happening?" "I do not know, my son," Gabe murmured, his gaze scanning the encroaching gloom. A shadow detached itself from the space between 2 overflowing dumpsters and stepped into the faint radiance of the street lamp. It was a man, tall and gaunt, drenched from head to toe. He was clad in a tattered gray hoodie and trousers with knees ripped open, and he wore no shoes. His long hair clung to his face like damp threads. Rainwater dripped from his beard, and his skin, weathered and darkened by exposure to the elements and hardship, possessed an unusual quality. However, his eyes were remarkable, deep and steady, seeming to emanate a faint glow in the dim light, as if they held an ancient wisdom far surpassing the man who possessed them. He approached with an unhurried, deliberate stride, exuding a quiet certainty, neither rushed nor hesitant, but with a clear purpose, as if he had arrived precisely for this moment. Exactly for them. Gabe's heart hammered with apprehension. He raised his voice, attempting to convey an authoritative tone. "Hey man, stay back. I have nothing. Please, just keep moving." The man did not halt his advance. He merely inclined his head, observing Gabe as if he already possessed a profound understanding of him. When he spoke, his voice was remarkably calm and gentle, so much so that it seemed to penetrate the biting cold like a warm luminescence. "Gabriel." Gabe froze. His sons froze with him. Noah tilted his head towards the unfamiliar voice. "Father, he knows your name." The man drew nearer, stopping a few feet away. Rainwater pooled around his bare feet, yet he appeared entirely unperturbed. His gaze softened. "Gabriel Ramirez," he repeated. "And these are Noah and Ethan." A shiver, entirely unrelated to the cold, coursed down Gabe's spine. "How? How do you know us?" The man offered no immediate reply. Instead, he crouched down, maintaining a respectful distance, yet close enough for the boys to discern his quiet breathing. He looked at them with a tenderness that no stranger should rightfully possess. "Noah," he said softly. "Yes, sir," the boy whispered, startled. "And Ethan," he added. Ethan's mouth fell agape. "How do you?" The man's smile was tinged with sadness, yet undeniably kind. "I have known your names for a very considerable time." Gabe swallowed hard. Something was wrong. Something was right. Something is impossible. "Who are you?" he demanded. The man finally lifted his gaze. Rain streamed down his face, catching the street lamp's glow behind him. In that fleeting reflection, a glimpse of something or someone seemed to radiate through. "My name," he stated quietly, "is Jesus." There was no dramatic flair, no peal of thunder, no celestial choir. Merely a name spoken with such profound simplicity, such naturalness, that it felt both utterly improbable and undeniably true. For the first time that night, the storm abruptly ceased, as if all of Los Angeles had paused in collective reverence to absorb the truth that had just emerged from the shadows. The name hung suspended in the air, a tremor softly uttered, yet potent enough to quell the tempest raging within Gabe's chest. Jesus, not proclaimed with fanfare, not declared with authority, but spoken as one might casually introduce themselves during a meal. And yet, the mere sound of it caused Gabe's breath to catch. He instinctively tightened his embrace around Noah. Ethan stood there, undecided whether to flee, implore, or simply absorb the scene. The individual in the weathered hooded garment gracefully settled down, cross-legged upon the damp pavement, droplets of rain clinging to his hair. Most would have appeared forlorn in such a posture, but he did not. There was an inherent dignity in his bearing, a quiet strength that spoke of one who had witnessed every sorrow imaginable, yet remained unbowed. Gab's voice quivered. You're claiming to be Jesus Christ? The Jesus Christ? The Son of God? The world's Redeemer? The man regarded him with eyes that seemed to encompass an entire universe of pain and profound compassion simultaneously. "I am the one who heard you this evening," he stated plainly. "The one to whom you cried out." Ethan's body shuddered. "Dad." He was listening. Jesus turned his attention to the boy. "I've been attending to you since the very moment you drew your first breath." Noah tentatively reached out and touched Jesus' knee. "But we can't perceive you." Jesus offered a gentle smile. "And yet, I perceive you. I always have." A hushed silence fell upon the boys, their sightless gazes fixed in the direction of his voice, their hands resting on the sodden ground as if sensing a shift in the very fabric of existence around them. Gabe shook his head, utterly overwhelmed. "If you are indeed Jesus, why would you grace us with your presence here? I am insignificant. Merely a churro vendor with 2 sightless children, navigating a life that has lost all meaning." Jesus inclined forward, his elbows finding a relaxed position on his knees. "Gabriel," he began, his voice resonating with understanding. "I comprehend the feeling of being overlooked. I understand the depths of suffering. I know the ache of a mother's tears and the weight of a father's responsibilities." His tone softened further. "I am familiar with the burden of carrying an immense load alone." The wind died down, as if the entire metropolis had fallen silent to listen. Gabe stared, a mixture of confusion, skepticism, and a desperate yearning to believe warring within him. Yet he was terrified to nurture hope. "Why us?" he implored. "Why choose a humble, grimy sidewalk in Los Angeles over a sanctuary or any other place of reverence?" Jesus exhaled slowly, a breath that seemed to carry the echoes of ancient memories. "I have never sought out opulent settings," he declared. "I was born in a humble stable, not a grand manor. I associated with simple fishermen, not powerful monarchs. I found solace with those on the fringes, not the celebrated elite. My path leads me to those who are suffering. And tonight, you are indeed suffering." His words struck with the force of revelation, penetrating the defenses Gabe had erected over years of hardship. "You cried out," Jesus continued with gentle insistence, "not from a desire for a miraculous intervention, but from a profound sense of abandonment. I have come to illuminate that you were never, not for a single moment, alone." Gab's throat constricted. He felt an urge to protest, to push back against the narrative, to finally voice the words he had held captive for so long. "Then why, sir," he whispered, "did you not prevent my wife's passing? Why did you permit my sons to be born without sight? Why did you stand by as we endured starvation?" Jesus did not flinch. Instead, he extended a hand, not to grasp, but to offer solace, and gently laid it upon Gab's shoulder with a tenderness that caused the father's breath to catch. "I have never forsaken you," Jesus affirmed. "Not in that sterile hospital room. Not during those endless nights filled with feeding bottles and fervent prayers. Not as you pushed that cart through sweltering heat and relentless rain. Not even tonight when you contemplated a world that might be better off without you." A single tear traced a path down Gab's cheek. "My heart fractured when yours did," Jesus murmured. "Every single time." A soft weeping began to emanate from the boys, as if they sensed something sacred in the atmosphere, something their physical eyes could not discern, but their spirits instantly recognized. Jesus turned his gaze towards them and continued, "Your sons are not impediments. They are not errors in judgment. They are not forgotten. They are cherished with an immeasurable and everlasting love." He then opened his palms. In the flickering illumination, Gabe beheld something utterly astonishing. Two faint, circular marks, reminiscent of healed puncture wounds, graced hands that bore no signs of nails. Gabe froze, his breath stolen from him. Jesus met his gaze. "I have not come to impose retribution," he stated. "My purpose is to mend that which has been broken." A distant rumble of thunder echoed, yet beneath the awning, an unspoken warmth settled over the three drenched figures huddled together, and the one who had stepped directly into their personal tempest. The night was no longer defined by mere rain and despair. It had transformed into a profound encounter, a pivotal turning point, a moment when the heavens stooped low enough for a shattered father to feel truly seen once more. Rain continued to patter rhythmically from the concrete overhang as Jesus rose to his feet, water streaming from his worn, hooded garment. Gabe observed him, caught between apprehension and captivation, struggling to comprehend why a man professing to be the Son of God would manifest before his family on such a night. Los Angeles was no Jerusalem. A cold, uninviting sidewalk was hardly a hallowed Galilean hillside. Nothing about this moment felt sacred. And yet, every fiber of Gabe's being affirmed that it was. Jesus advanced, not with the ostentatious display of a miracle worker, but with the quiet assurance of one possessing absolute certainty in his actions. "Noah," he addressed the boy gently, "may I touch your face?" The boy nodded, his trust unburdened by understanding. Jesus knelt until his knees met the damp ground. Water pooled around him, seeping into his trousers, yet he appeared unfazed by the chill. He reached down, gathering a handful of mud from the ground, a mixture of earth, rain, and the gritty residue of Los Angeles streets. Gabe flinched. "Wait, what are you doing?" Jesus offered no verbal reply. Instead, he spat lightly into the mud, working it between his fingers until it formed a thick paste. To any casual observer, the act would have appeared utterly deranged, akin to a destitute individual idly playing with street grime at the stroke of midnight. A security guard from across the thoroughfare cast a cursory glance, shook his head, and resumed his patrol. A rideshare driver slowed his vehicle, took in the scene, and accelerated away. This was not the kind of miraculous intervention Hollywood typically depicted. It was raw, unconventional, and unsettling, mirroring the very world Jesus had come to heal. Jesus held the mud in his palm and looked towards Gabe. "This will feel cool," he said softly. "No fanfare, no grand build-up, simply the unadorned truth." He gently applied the mud to Noah's closed eyelids. Gabe gasped, reaching out to grasp Jesus' wrist, but Jesus halted him with a single, penetrating look, imbued with an authority that predated the surrounding city mountains. "Gabriel," he stated, "I will not cause harm to your sons. Place your trust in me, even if your intellect cannot fully grasp it." Gabe's hand fell away. Jesus repeated the action with Ethan, applying mud. The touch was tender. Both boys shivered from the sensation of cold, yet they did not recoil. Their small hands clutched their father's coat, their faith placed in him, in the voice before them, in something beyond their comprehension. "Why mud?" Gabe finally managed to whisper. "Why here? Why in this manner?" Jesus wiped his fingers on the tattered fabric of his hoodie and stood, the remnants of mud washing from his palms in the rain. "In every era," he explained, "people anticipate miracles to be spectacular displays. However, the most profound miracles are born of faith, not ostentation. I employ simple elements, ensuring the glory is attributed to the divine, not the methodology." He gestured eastward, towards the luminous glow of Pershing Square, a park mere blocks away, its fountain still flowing despite the downpour. "There is a fountain there," Jesus continued. "Take them to it. Thoroughly cleanse their eyes, and do not hesitate." Gabe stared at him, incredulity etched on his face. "In the dead of night, in the pouring rain, you expect me to escort two blind boys across downtown to wash mud off their faces in a public fountain? People will think we're lunatics." Jesus stepped closer, close enough for Gabe to feel the warmth radiating from him, defying the ambient chill. "Faith," he stated, "seldom appears logical prior to the miracle." Noah tugged at Gabe's sleeve. "Dad, if it is Jesus, we should do as he says." Ethan nodded, his voice trembling. I want to try." Gabe's gaze swept down the empty, rain-slicked streets, scanning the shadows, the puddles, the ever-present dangers. Every instinct screamed for him to remain put, to shield his sons, to cling to the meager fragments of sense that remained. But a heavier force bore down upon him, the accumulated weight of 4 years of unanswered pleas, the heartbreak of two blind boys yearning to comprehend the visual world, and the profound voice of a Savior who had willingly entered their storm. Jesus placed a hand on Gabe's shoulder, a touch both gentle and unyielding. "Go," he urged quietly, "and I shall meet you in your faith." Then, as silently as he had appeared, he retreated into the alleyway, and the encroaching darkness enveloped him completely. The only sounds left were the ceaseless rain and the frantic pounding of a father's heart, as he gathered his sons and began to walk towards a miracle no one else in the slumbering city would ever comprehend. Pershing Square, at the stroke of midnight, was a near-deserted expanse. Its usual daytime vibrancy had yielded to an unsettling tranquility, broken only by the persistent drizzle that tapped against the concrete. Streetlights cast elongated reflections across the glistening tiles, and the central fountain, typically a backdrop for tourists and office workers, now shimmered like a solitary beacon in the encroaching darkness. Gabe stood at the periphery of the plaza, rain coursing down his face, his breath misting in the cool air. Noah and Ethan clung to him, the mud adorning their eyes now beginning to dry and crack. Each step towards the fountain felt like a further descent into a realm of the irrational. His mind raced, a tempest of fear, doubt, and sheer exhaustion. What if nothing transpired? What if this entire encounter was merely the rambling of a disoriented, destitute individual? What if leading his children through the heart of the city at this late hour was the most reckless act he had ever committed? Yet, beneath the suffocating layers of apprehension, a faint spark flickered, a fragile whisper of hope he had long since buried. The fountain hissed and bubbled as water jetted upward, bathed in the soft hues of purple and blue lights. Even amidst the storm, it possessed an aura of profound peace, almost sanctity. Gabe gently placed the boys down on the fountain's stone lip. Their small legs dangled over the edge, their shoes dripping. The rain had plastered their hair to their heads, yet they remained still, their trust unwavering. "Dad?" Noah inquired softly. "Yes, my boy," Gabe replied, striving to maintain a steady tone. "Is this where it will happen?" "I fervently hope so," Gabe whispered. He dipped both hands into the fountain. The water was shockingly frigid, its chill biting against his skin. His fingers trembled, not solely from the cold, but from the immense weight of what this singular moment might portend. "Ready?" he asked. Ethan nodded, a touch of nervousness in his expression. "If Jesus commanded it, we must obey." Gabe cupped the water and tenderly brought it to Noah's face. The boy winced as the cold struck him, but he did not pull away. Gabe meticulously wiped the mud from his son's eyelids, allowing the water to cascade down his cheeks, cleansing away every vestige. When he had finished, Noah sat perfectly still, his breathing shallow, his lips slightly parted, awaiting. "All right," Gabe said softly. "Open your eyes." Noah inhaled sharply. For the very first time in his existence, his eyelids fluttered, then parted for a heart-stopping moment. Initially, nothing seemed to change. His gaze remained unfocused, vague, just as it always had. Then, a subtle shift occurred. His pupils contracted. His eyes tracked movement. His head turned towards the fountain's shimmering lights. "Dad," Noah whispered, his voice cracking. "What? What is that? That luminous object?" Gabe choked back a sob. That's water, Noah." "The fountain." The boy blinked rapidly, each blink drawing the world into sharper relief. He looked at his father, his initial confusion rapidly transforming into profound awe. "Your face, Dad. I can see your face." Tears blurred Gabe's vision, but he managed a smile. "Yes, my boy. It is I." You're crying," Noah observed, reaching out. "Your eyes are leaking." Gabe let out a broken, joyful sound as he drew Noah into his arms. "Dad, me next," Ethan pleaded, bouncing with anticipation. Gabe rinsed his hands again and moved to his second son. The mud softened instantaneously as he gently wiped it away. Ethan opened his eyes more swiftly than Noah. His eagerness mingled with a potent blend of terror and hope. For a fleeting instant, he froze. The world assailed him all at once. Light, color, shape, everything. "Everything is so bright," Ethan gasped. He then turned to his brother, regarding him as if meeting him for the first time. "Noah, you resemble me." The twins embraced each other tightly, their sobs and laughter intermingling. Two boys who had existed in perpetual darkness were now submerged in the overwhelming shock of beauty. Gabe knelt beside them, drawing them into a trembling embrace. His entire body shook with an overwhelming sense of relief, disbelief, and a gratitude that felt too profound to contain. "Thank you," he whispered towards the heavens, his voice breaking. "Jesus, thank you." A rupture appeared in the clouds above, allowing a sliver of moonlight to descend upon them like a celestial benediction. In the very heart of downtown Los Angeles, amidst the raging storm, the deserted streets, and the quiet hum of the city, two previously sightless boys beheld the world for the first time. And a father came to understand that miracles were not confined to ancient narratives. They still traversed the avenues of modern America, precisely as Jesus had foretold. The morning sun broke over Los Angeles with a warmth that felt almost ethereal after the events of the preceding night. Gabe had not slept, not for a single moment. Noah and Ethan remained awake too, their eyes wide open in every conceivable sense, scrutinizing every detail within the confines of their small motel room, as if the world had been newly conjured overnight. They traced the fissures in the ceiling, chuckled at the way sunlight transformed dust motes into shimmering sparkles, and touched the peeling wallpaper as if it were a masterpiece of fine art, erupting in giggles each time they focused on their father's face. "Dad, you truly do have a beard," Ethan exclaimed in wonder. "And your eyebrows are quite immense," Noah added. Gabe laughed through a cascade of tears. "They are a legacy from your grandfather's lineage." However, when Noah discovered the folded piece of paper Jesus had placed in Gabe's hand the previous evening, a profound silence descended upon the room once more. It read, 10 a.m. First Heritage Bank, Downtown Branch. Inquire for Ramirez Trust 2000. Jesus Christ. Nothing about it seemed logical, yet everything about the preceding hours convinced Gabe that he must comply. By 9:50 a.m., Gabe found himself standing before the bank, a 4-story edifice of stone adorned with polished brass doors, imposing columns, and an interior lobby that exuded an opulence far beyond his perceived station. Businessmen in tailored suits entered and exited with an air of purpose. Women in elegant heels clicked across the marble expanse. Security personnel stood erect and vigilant. As Gabe approached the entrance, one of the guards stepped forward, his gaze assessing Gabe's worn jacket, his damp footwear, and the two excitedly animated twin boys by his side. "The bank is not open for public tours today," the guard stated curtly. "We are not here for a tour," Gabe replied, endeavoring to maintain a steady voice. "I have an appointment." "With whom?" The guard let out a derisive snort. Before Gabe could respond, Noah lifted his chin. "We are here to make inquiries regarding the Ramirez Trust 2000. The guard froze, his expression undergoing a palpable shift. He tapped his earpiece. Please hold." Moments later, he muttered, "You may proceed inside. The manager wishes to see you." The lobby enveloped them with its cold magnificence. Marble floors, opulent chandeliers, and counters trimmed in gold. A receptionist, her hair impeccably styled and her nails perfectly manicured, looked up, then stiffened as Gabe reiterated the phrase. "Ramirez Trust 2000. She asked no questions. Instead, she reached for the telephone with trembling fingers. "Yes, sir. He has arrived. Yes, accompanied by the children. Yes, I will escort them upstairs immediately." After she concluded her call, she swallowed nervously. "Mr. Blake, the regional director will be seeing you upstairs." A director, not a mere teller, not a manager, but a director. Gabe's legs felt heavy as they followed her into the elevator. Noah and Ethan held his hands tightly, their eyes darting around, absorbing every detail. On the topmost floor, a tall gentleman in a charcoal suit awaited them, his countenance a complex blend of disbelief and recognition. "Mr. Ramirez?" he inquired. "Yes," Gabe whispered. "I am Jonathan Blake. Please, come in." His office commanded a panoramic view of the city skyline. Leather armchairs, a mahogany desk, framed diplomas. Every element exuded power and wealth, yet his voice trembled. "I must ask," Blake began, settling slowly into his chair. "How did you become aware of the trust?" "If you could climb," Gabe replied, "a man informed me. A man named Jesus Christ." Blake inhaled sharply, as if the very air had been forcibly expelled from his lungs. He turned to his computer, typed with swift precision, and brought up a scanned document. A trust agreement dated 2000. At the apex was Roberto Ramirez, Gabe's father, a man about whom he knew precious little. The document elucidated everything. Roberto had been employed in construction, had procured a life insurance policy, and had established a trust fund for his yet-to-be-born child, Gabe. He had perished in an accident prior to Gabe's birth. The fund had remained untouched for decades, legally secured, its principal steadily accumulating interest year after year. Blake rotated the monitor to face Gabe. "As of this morning," he stated softly, "the trust contains $1,274,580. Gabe's breath hitched. His hands began to tremble. Noah whispered, "Dad, what is wrong?" It's a miracle," Gabe breathed. "Another miracle." Blake cleared his throat. "There is one final matter." He slid an envelope across the desk. Within it lay a handwritten note. "You will no longer walk in darkness. Provide for your boys. Assist others to see. I am with you always." Jesus Christ! Tears blurred the words. A father who had lost everything now held more than mere wealth. He possessed purpose. And for the first time in years, the world did not feel like a crushing weight. It felt expansive, luminous, full of possibility. They unlocked the doors of Grace Churros for the very first time. It was a quiet Saturday morning in Boyle Heights, a neighborhood intimately familiar with struggle, where families fought valiantly for every shred of hope. The sign above the entrance gleamed in elegant gold lettering. Grace, Churros, every bite a blessing. Inside, the walls were painted in warm cream and serene sky blue. Photographs adorned the hallway, capturing Noah and Ethan's first sunrise, their initial moments of seeing each other's faces, their inaugural attempts at depicting light and color. In the central dining area hung a framed verse, penned by Gabe himself. "The night everything transformed. Freely you have received. Freely give." The twins darted across the polished floor, their laughter echoing through the establishment. Merely weeks prior, they were unable to perceive their father's countenance. Now they meticulously examined every inch of the space. "Dad, look," Ethan exclaimed. "The fryer is so shiny, and the churros look absolutely perfect." Gabe observed them with a smile that had been absent from his face for years. The settlement paperwork had demanded time, but once the trust funds were cleared, he made a vow, one he repeated each morning. "Lord, every dollar you have bestowed upon me will be a blessing to another." And thus, Grace Churros was not merely a commercial venture. It was a sacred mission. The inaugural patrons were their neighbors, single mothers pushing strollers, elderly gentlemen from the corner laundromat, construction workers still bearing the scent of dust and perspiration. They had heard the whispers. A blind miracle, a prophet without a home, a father who had surrendered everything only to gain more than wealth could ever quantify. People arrived out of curiosity, but they remained because the churros were exquisitely crisp, delightfully warm, and dusted with cinnamon sugar in the time-honored tradition passed down through generations. Maria, a grandmother in her 70s, savored a single bite and murmured, "Mijo, this tastes like hope." But hope was not confined solely to the pastry. Behind the counter, a prominent sign declared, 40% of all profits are dedicated to the Eyes of Grace Foundation, providing vital vision surgeries for children in need. That particular notion had originated with Noah. "Dad, Jesus gave us new eyes," the boy had explained one evening. "Perhaps we can help other children experience the world too," Ethan had added enthusiastically. "We can be Jesus's helpers," Gabe had responded, tears welling up on the spot. Within the first month, the foundation established a partnership with a small eye clinic in East Los Angeles. A local physician, Dr. Ramirez, clasped Gabe's hand and stated, "You have no idea how many families have been praying for an opportunity like this." And Gabe thought, neither did I, but someone else did. The foundation funded 3 surgical procedures in its inaugural week, subsequently 5, then 12. These were small victories, each representing a universe of restored color. Parents dispatched letters, their handwriting trembling with emotion. "She saw my face today." He pointed towards the sky and exclaimed, "Blue, God bless whoever made this possible." Gabe meticulously preserved every note in a shoebox labeled "Miracles." However, success inevitably attracted attention. One morning, a sleek Tesla pulled up to the shop. A well-dressed gentleman emerged, introducing himself as the founder of a regional restaurant conglomerate, and extended to Gabe an offer for a multi-million-dollar partnership to franchise Grace Churros across the entire state. "It could be immense," the man stated with unwavering confidence. "Hundreds of locations, nationwide recognition." Gabe listened politely, then glanced over at his sons, who were busily wiping tables, their cheerful humming filling the air. "I am not building an empire," he replied gently. "I am cultivating gratitude." The man appeared not to grasp the sentiment, but Gabe had not anticipated that he would. Grace Churros was not about maximizing profit. It was about expanding the reach of compassion. Nevertheless, the shop flourished in its own humble fashion, drawing weekend lines that extended out the door. Community members eagerly offered their assistance to the foundation. Places of worship contributed provisions, and educational institutions organized fundraising events. The appeal extended beyond mere culinary delights. It was about the narrative woven into their creation, a potent reminder that extraordinary occurrences still graced the American landscape. As nightfall descended on one occasion, Gabe emerged to behold the city's illuminated panorama. Noah, his son, gently grasped his arm. "Dad, do you imagine we'll ever encounter the Christ again?" Gabe paused, his gaze sweeping across the thoroughfare, the waiting area for public transport, and the adjacent passage. For a fleeting instant, he perceived the outline of a man clad in worn garments, his hair slicked by the persistent mist, observing them with serene contentment. Yet, With a mere flutter of Gabe's eyelids, the apparition vanished. He then addressed his sons. "We encounter him daily, my boys. In every life, this endeavor touches." Grace Churros represented more than a commercial ventures revival. It signified a man's renewal, a family's rebirth, and a mission's reawakening. And somewhere within the sprawling metropolis, Christ himself traversed the avenues of Los Angeles, a gentle smile gracing his lips as he witnessed the remarkable growth of faith, no larger than a mustard seed. It was often said that Los Angeles never truly rested. However, in the quiet pre-dawn hours, at precisely 2 o'clock in the morning, the city seemed to inhale deeply, its rhythm slow and profound, alive with untold narratives. Luminary street lamps cast elongated amber reflections upon the deserted boulevards. A commercial establishment's signage pulsed intermittently. In the distance, the mournful cry of a train echoed. And on a tranquil segment of Alama Street, a solitary figure proceeded barefoot. This was no ordinary individual, but a presence in threadbare attire, his long hair cascading past his shoulders, his hands bearing scars that defied any medical explanation. His eyes held a depth, a knowing wisdom, and an abundance of affection far exceeding that of a common wanderer. Some passers-by, inexplicably, felt a chill. Others averted their gaze, discomfited by their inner feelings. A few murmured, "He resembles." But the sentence remained unfinished, for who would entertain such a notion? Who would dare to conceive that Christ still journeyed through America? The account of Grace Churros had resonated far beyond the confines of Boyle Heights. Media outlets featured segments on the Miracle Twins. Families formed queues outside the medical facility that had forged an alliance with the Eyes of Grace Foundation. Volunteers arrived from across 3 states to contribute to the establishment of a second site. Trucks delivered an abundance of floral arrangements. Medical professionals offered their services gratis on weekends. The patrons were not drawn by the churros themselves, but by the profound assurance that divine regard continued to encompass them. Gabe never characterized himself as chosen. Yet others did. He simply stated, "I was a man on the verge of drowning. Christ extended his hand and rescued me. Now I assist others in their struggle for breath." Sundays at Grace Churros evolved into a cherished tradition. Gabe would open the establishment later in the day, allowing families to participate in religious services. In the evening, he would read aloud correspondence from parents whose children had regained their sight. One letter originated from a mother in Arizona. "My daughter experienced the color red for the inaugural time. She remarked, 'Mommy, it feels warm.' Another arrived from a veteran residing in Texas. 'I am uncertain if Christ still walks the earth, but your narrative has convinced me. He has not forsaken us.' Each testimonial served as another building block in the enduring legacy Gabe was meticulously constructing. This was not a legacy defined by material wealth or fleeting fame, but by an abundance of grace. Precisely 1 year following the miraculous event at Pershing Square, on March 24th, Gabe concluded the day's business early. Noah and Ethan, now demonstrably taller, exuding confidence, and possessing an insatiable curiosity, accompanied him as he retraced their steps toward the city's core. They carried 2 boxes brimming with churros, artfully dusted with cinnamon and confectioner's sugar. "Dad, are we embarking on this venture once more?" Ethan inquired. "Indeed," Gabe responded with a smile. "We are returning to the very location where everything underwent a transformation." Pershing Square maintained a quietude reminiscent of that fateful evening. While the celestial canopy and the prevailing season had changed, the identical fountain remained, its luminescence shimmering beneath the urban glow. Gabe carefully placed the churro boxes upon the stone parapet. "Do you believe he will grace us with his presence?" Noah whispered. "Perhaps," Gabe replied. "But even in his absence, he is here." They waited in contemplative silence. Minutes elapsed. Then, the soft, deliberate sound of footsteps, carrying a slight drag upon the pavement. Simultaneously, the twins turned their heads, discerning a figure emerging from the deepening shadows. Barefoot, his hair damp from the persistent mist, his eyes radiating that inexplicable fusion of profound sorrow and boundless affection. "Greetings, Gabriel," the man spoke with gentle intonation. Gabe's knees weakened as he bowed his head. "Christ, I offer my deepest gratitude for all things, for my sons, for the life we share." Christ raised a hand. "You demonstrate your appreciation by extending aid to others. That is sufficient." The twins stepped forward, their apprehension completely absent. "Will you always remain with us?" Noah asked. Christ knelt, ensuring his gaze met theirs. "I am present wherever tears fall, wherever hunger resides, wherever children feel overlooked, wherever a father weeps in darkness, believing no one hears." He offered a gentle, eternal, and profoundly moving smile. "And for as long as love endures, you will perceive me." With that, he lightly touched their foreheads, rose, and retreated into the fading light. By the time the next vehicle passed, he had vanished. No gust of wind, no clap of thunder, merely a pervasive sense of presence, akin to the lingering warmth after a beloved departs. Years hence, the precise quantity of churros Grace Churros had distributed, or the financial contributions of Eyes of Grace, would likely fade from collective memory. However, the boy who discovered the world of color would be remembered. The mother who wept with joy over her son's newfound ability to read. The father who rediscovered hope after believing it was irrevocably lost. And the hushed rumor passed discreetly from one street to another. "I believe Christ walked through our neighborhood last night." Perhaps he did. Perhaps he continues to do so. And perhaps he resides closer than the world dares to acknowledge. If this narrative has resonated with your spirit, kindly extend your support to the Stories of Grace channel. Please like, subscribe, and share this content to enable us to disseminate further light within stories where miracles continue to unfold in our contemporary era.